One of the things that I do before I create ideas like this, and especially in relation to how Ideapod is growing, I go back and read things that I think are key to developing a social media platform or any kind of virtual space. The admission that I have a whole bunch of books, but I never finish them. I'm in like this stage of each book that, I read, and I overanalyze a lot of things. So I need to get back to this book, which is a very good book. It's Social Physics, How Good Ideas Spread, the Lessons from a New Science. So if you don't have this and you're really interested in the development of Ideapod, I really recommend it. In addition to Stephen Johnson's Where Good Ideas Come From. I mean, that's just a no-brainer, right? And then also I saw the area of the homepage, What Technology Wants. I have this, and again, I haven't read much of it. I get to a certain point, and then I have to move on to something different for whatever reason, for writing or whatever. But and I think this one hits on some very important aspects. There is this, and this was relation to education too. This idea of big data is obviously a very important one. It helps us understand certain patterns and certain trends, and this book focuses on that. And time again, how things work is based on this interpretation of big data. So for the most part, a very easy book to read. So it's not too technical. Cities. So it's going from kind of this micro to macro in this book, focusing on the ideas themselves and expanding their physics. I find it a very useful tool, not only, as I said, in a different idea for what was going on with my team and I, where we had to kind of expand out and not be so alone with what we were doing, but seeing what other people were doing in other disciplines, going outside of our department, and finding those ideas elsewhere that might help us take our project in the direction it needed to go. But also for Ideapod, it helped me reflect on certain things and try to conceptualize. Related to this idea of terraforming and also the idea of big data, where we can see these patterns happening, and also, and I just thought of this idea, thinking about terraforming and the idea of how Ideapod is forming based on how its users are using the space. At the university in the city in which I live, there is a central plaza area called the Oval, and I learned some history about this Oval. Before there were sidewalks, people used to cut through the grass and make dirt trails, and they used these dirt trails, these common pathways that people would take from building to building around the Oval to create the sidewalks of the future. So I think this concept of how we use the space actually is forming its structure. So this whole idea of scaffolding, we have to use what is familiar, the best of, gleaning the best of, what we're familiar with, what is existing, to build that future structure. And it has to be malleable. It has to be flexible. So we need to keep that in mind. That's something that's key, to keep it simple. What are the foundational aspects of Ideapod? So, just for reference, it's coming from Footprint, one of my anachronism stories. I join you on the periphery stones. I run my left hand finger down from the inside of your wrist, and with the softest touch, my fingertips ride the furrowed threads of your palm to in between your fingers. You squeeze my hand in reassurance. We stand barefoot overlooking the complex, reading the sacred text dedicated to that which inspired its writing. We tread the ledge, climb down staircases, follow the serpentine pathway, its snake-skin scales shedding light on bending time. The past scars the present, and the foundation of the present holds future growth. Future endpoints uncertain, we virtually terraform using patterns of the past. So I'm a history buff, so these are 3 books that I have just as reference, and they're more of an encyclopedia, each tome. One is The Seekers, so seeking out those ideas, perhaps, when we come. How can we find the ideas that we're seeking? How do we discover them, the discoverers? and the creators. It's another very important aspect of Ideapod. We hope that all visitors would create their own ideas. And one last note about where good ideas come from. And Stephen Johnson gave a talk, which during his keynote, I just felt so much better because he was wandering here and there, going off on tangents. I mean, he always came back to the general theme of his keynote, but that made me feel so much better because at this moment, I'm at the very end of my video idea, but I've gone off on so many tangents that it's going to take me forever to edit this thing to make it coherent. So in a way, it made me smile. You know, where good ideas come from, where our mind wanders, which, I'm a wandering mind. So, just to make all of these ideas come back together and meet where they need to meet, during his keynote, it made me smile, seeing him on stage, wander from one idea to the next, but then it all coming back together into the theme of his talk. So I'm going to read you the table of contents and see if you might be interested in reading it. And it's From Ideas to Actions is chapter 1. Using big data to understand how human societies evolve. Chapter 2 and part 1 is part of social physics exploration. How can we find good ideas and make good decisions? And there are subtitles, but I'm not going to read those. Idea flow is chapter 3, the building blocks of collective intelligence. 4 is engagement. How can we all work together? Building on this idea of relationships. Part 2 deals with idea machines, collective intelligence, how patterns of interaction translate into collective intelligence. Chapter 6, shaping organizations, social intelligence through visualization of interaction patterns. 7, organizational change. Social networks incentives can be used to create instant organizations and guide them through disruptive change. Part 3, data-driven cities, sensing cities. Sensing cities, how mobile sensing is creating a nervous system for cities, enabling them to become more healthy, safe, and efficient. City science, how social physics and big data are revolutionizing our understanding of cities and development. Part 4, data-driven society, data-driven societies. What will a data-driven future look like? Chapter 11, design for harmony, how social physics can help us design a human-centric society.